Welcome back, my friends, to another episode of TFT Hyperroll with Artark. Today is a video I've been wanting to do for a while because the concept of this build has fascinated me. But before I get into it, you know what to do. Like, comment, subscribe, do all the things to help out the YouTube algorithm. It'll help the channel grow and make everyone happy. Yay! Now look, you saw the thumbnail, so you know where this is ultimately heading, but I've had a fascination with doing a civilian mascot build, because I thought seeing Nunu roll his balls all over the board would be really fun, and the mascots would help keep him alive. So the goal is simple: pick up civilians and mascots, and yes, as a huge Supernatural fan, we have not seen the last of Bobby. Now, this opening augment almost blew up my entire plan for this game. Nothing here fits what I want to do. I have two mascots and a civilian out. None of the augments are that. They exist out there, but they're not in this group. Remember I said it can make or break? Well, yeah, here's an example. I decide to go with the Lux augment, simply because one, it's pretty good, and two, Janna, who is a civilian, is also a Spellslinger, so there are ways for me to make this synergy work. Not as I planned, but it can work. My key now is to shift over into thinking Star Guardian and mascots, and work with that in some way and hope it will build me into what I want. You can see sort of how popular this type of build is, as they are going mascots with Renekton, however, as well, but Lux's ults allow us to power through it. With our original plan shot for the moment, it's time to play into the augment that we got, which means we're making a Jeweled Gauntlet for Lux, and then hoping to find the 2-star Lux so that we can play on through this game. We 2-star the Galio that we put the Warmogs on, and that's because mascots heal a percentage of health, so it's good to have items like Warmogs on your mascots. Now at this point, I have kind of given up on the original premise. I've sold Yuumi off and decided I'm just going to try to work into Spellslingers as much as I can, so I've brought in an Annie. It's going to be interesting to see how we get back to what I originally wanted to do. We found a Sona in between rounds, and that is a more powerful unit than Annie and has a little bit of healing involved, so it was key to bring her in just to help us get through these next few fights. Now we're stuck heading in the Spellslinger direction, but we'll find our way out. At this point, though, I feel like the game is working against me because I'm not getting items that are really conducive to anything I want to do. The Giant's Belt will work, as we can end up putting it on a mascot, but this isn't exactly great for a Spellslinger build. And I'm really surprised at how long this build has held on, given that it is not what I was originally planning, and it really hasn't been super item friendly for what I'm trying to do. Lux is going to try her hardest here, but it's just not going to work, as between Zoe and Poppy, she ends up taking enough damage to go down, and once she's down, the build is pretty much done for, and we'll suffer our first loss. It's time for our next augment, and I'm hoping for something that will help, and this really does. Getting a Spellslinger heart will allow us to get to at least 4 Spellslingers without having to have 4 Spellslingers on the board, so we can focus back more on the original concept, which revolves around getting more mascots onto the team and possibly civilians as well, but I don't want to do it with Sivir, but I do definitely want to bring in Janna towards the end. And right now I've kind of got one toe in each pool, 3 mascots, 3 Spellslingers, so I'm not really ticking any next level buffs, which is making the team a little weaker than I'd like it to be. This team is obviously committed also into a mascot civilian type build, so as you can see, there is competition for this. Items through the NPC are not being super helpful for a Spellslinger build, but it is allowing me a really good option for tank builds. So I can take the Giant's Belts, put them on Annie, the Dragon's Claw, put it on Annie, and with the 4 Mascots along with the healing that goes with that, and Annie having a shield, it can really help out. Now, unfortunately, what we're really lacking right now that you need are mana items. Lux is not getting any boost to her casting, and her casting is really strong. So we're relying too much on the front line to keep holding things back while she does the 8 or 9 auto attacks that it's going to take for her to cast next, and that is not a winning formula. You need the mana items. And even though Lux is doing decent damage, it's not going to be enough to overcome this. At this point, I have put Yuumi in instead of Sona, not because Yuumi's a better unit, but she increased the synergy on Mascots up to 4, so I had more healing. But this is a full defender frontline with a Mecha Prime 3-star Wukong, so he can tear through us with a ton of tankiness. And while the first augment may have taken away our chances of doing what I wanted, well, this one's going to give it back. We did pick up a Tome of Traits during the NPC round, which is still sitting unopened. I'm torn between the Mascot and Civilian crest. I decide to go Civilian for the additional mana, and then get another Civilian crest from the Tome of Traits. This can now take me straight up to the 3 Civilians, which is going to give 10 mana every 2 seconds to all members of our team, so long as a Civilian champ is still alive, which is why I put the Civilian emblem on people in the backline. They are more likely to survive. I also have a mana production item with the blue buff. Remember, it does work a little differently, so it is based on takedowns. Remember, every other one of Lux's casts is going to be for 180% of her expected damage, which if she crits, boom! Let's go to the replay to see the devastation, and they're gone. And get ready to check out the damage chart numbers. Yeah, that's a huge amount of damage. Now I'm back in line for my original concept, which is the Civilian Mascot, although it worked into a couple of extra Spellslingers build. I have my Civilians set up, I have Spellslingers, I have 4 Mascots and 2 slots open. I have a fully formed Alistair waiting on the bench, so there's just one person left to get, and that's Nunu. Now we got our Nunu during the NPC round, but it's not time for him yet. I want to tank up this front line a bit more, so I have a Sunfire Cape that I can put on Galio, who is really playing the center of this, followed by Randian Sanctum. Thank you, Gary, for the Ornn Augment, because this will allow me to take my entire front line, gather it around Galio, and just give them more power. We are also very close to 3 stars on several units, Galio, Annie, and Lux, and if we can get them up there, it would be great. There is our gold 3-star Lux, just not in time for the match to start. And I know, everyone wants to see Nunu's balls, but that time will come. Right now, we're better off to keep the front line tanky as it is so that Lux can keep getting off these attacks of death. That Renekton is very, very tanky with the Dragon's Claw and can stand in a long time, but you can't stand in forever against this. It's time to roll some more and see if we can get any of our other units up to 3 stars, and yes, we now have the 3-star Galio, who's got some amazing items, so he is going to be a real solid frontline tank. And yes, I know, this is almost like staring into a mirror. They are running a nearly identical build, only they have put their Nunu out there. But you can see why I want to do this, because as Nunu is rolling his around the board, it is nearly taking out our entire team. Luckily, we're just too tanky for it. It is time now for our penultimate item, and with Nunu, you want to add AP. So Rabadon's Death Cap is definitely a good choice, and then we can throw in the Hextech Gunblade as well, so that he's going to be healing as he goes. Remember, each time one of his balls hits someone, they take magic damage, and so that will be healing him as well. Since we got ourselves up to the 2-star Nunu, we can use the Champion Duplicator to give us a 3-star Annie, and we are good to go. To get maximum bonus out of the Randian Sanctum, we want to clump everyone around Galio, but I keep the 2 civilians on the opposite sides, and the reason is the civilian trait works so long as 1 civilian is left standing. So they might be able to take out one side, but not the other, which will keep the mana flowing, which will keep our tanks going, which allows us to win this round and brings us into the top 4. We are right back against the same team, and I probably should have considered moving everyone out of the center clump, but to be honest, this Urgot is not too much of a threat. They're able to take out Nunu, but he just is firing almost hopelessly into Annie, who just doesn't seem to care, and then Galio comes in and just punches him out. We are left facing off against that Mecha Prime Defender team, who luckily does not have a lot of Aegis in their build, or any for that matter, so they're really set up for physical attacks and not necessarily the types of damage that we are going to be doing, which is exclusively magic damage. And this is where we will finally get to see Nunu shine, as he is able to roll his balls all over their team. He gets into the back line, then comes back and is able to take people out with his balls. So this becomes very powerful. Using Nunu can be incredibly effective in the right build. I recommend not necessarily forcing it, but do look for the opportunity. You will enjoy it. Hope this video helped, and as always, have an absolutely awesome day.
Go, 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 go!